Let me ask you something. Have you ever checked your phone, saw they were online, and felt your chest tighten because they didn't reply to you? Be honest. Do you respond instantly, even when you're busy? Do you cancel plans, just to be free in case they call? Do you feel anxious when they take longer than usual to text back? Here's the uncomfortable truth. The more available you are, the less valuable you look. And nobody tells you this. You think you're being kind. You think you're showing effort. You think you're proving loyalty. But what if? What if your constant availability is silently lowering your attraction? What if replying in 30 seconds isn't impressive, but predictable? And what happens when you become predictable? There's no tension, no anticipación, no misteri, just access, unlimited access. And human psychology doesn't reward unlimited access. It rewards scarcity. Think about it. Why do people chase the person who takes longer to reply? Why do they obsess over the one who seems busy? Why does distance create desire? It's not a game. It's psychology. When someone knows they can have you anytime, they stop feeling lucky to have you at all. And maybe this is the part that hurts. Maybe you're not unattractive. Maybe you're just too available. In this video, I'm going to break down 8 psychological reasons why this happens. And by the end, you'll understand exactly how to shift from being the one who waits to the one who is chosen. Stay with me, because the first reason might expose something about you that you've been avoiding. Let's talk about something uncomfortable. The human brain is wired to value what feels limited. Not what's loud, not what's chasing, not what's constantly present. What feels rare? Think about it. When something is always available, you stop noticing it. When someone always responds instantly, you stop anticipating them. When someone is always free, you stop prioritizing them. This isn't cruelty, it's psychology. There's something called scarcity bias. Our minds assign more value to things that appear limited. And there's another layer, reward uncertainty. When a reward is predictable, dopamine drops. When a reward is uncertain, when there's a little mystery, dopamine spikes. That's why gambling is addictive. That's why unpredictable notifications feel exciting. That's why you check your phone more when someone replies randomly instead of instantly. Uncertainty creates anticipation. Anticipation creates emotional tension. Emotional tension creates attraction. Now here's the hard truth. When you're always available, always replying in seconds, always rearranging your schedule, always saying yes, always waiting, you remove the tension. You remove the anticipation. You remove the space where desire grows. Predictability feels safe, but too much predictability feels ordinary. And ordinary doesn't spark curiosity. This doesn't mean you should ignore people. It doesn't mean you should manipulate. It doesn't mean you should play games. It means you should have a life, a real one, a schedule that doesn't bend for everyone, passions that absorb your time, goals that matter more than being chosen. Scarcity isn't about pretending to be busy. It's about actually being invested in something beyond the person you're trying to attract. When you have your own rhythm, your own priorities, your own world, people feel that, and suddenly, your attention becomes valuable. Because it's not automatic. It's intentional, and intention is rare, and rare is attractive. Let's go deeper. Attraction isn't just about chemistry. It's about perceived value, and value is often measured by one silent question. How much does this person value themselves? When you're constantly available, constantly adjusting, constantly initiating, you may think you're showing care, but psychologically, you might be signaling something else. Because over-availability can look like this. You drop plans the second they call. You respond instantly, every time. You wait for their messages like your mood depends on it. You tolerate last-minute cancellations. You accept crumbs of attention. And here's what the other person unconsciously reads. If they have this much time for me, maybe they don't have much going on. Harsh, but real. Humans naturally respect people who appear to have options. Not because options make someone better, but because options suggest self-worth. When someone protects their time, sets boundaries, and doesn't chase validation, it communicates something powerful. My life has value, and access to it is earned. Now here's where people get confused. Being less available is not about being cold. It's not about acting superior. It's not about punishing someone. It's about alignment. If your entire emotional state shifts based on one person's attention, that signals dependency, and dependency reduces attraction. Why? Because attraction thrives on two whole individuals choosing each other, not one person trying to secure the other. When you overgive access, you accidentally communicate fear of losing them, and fear lowers perceived status. Confidence raises it. There's a subtle difference between, I enjoy talking to you, and I need you to keep talking to me. One feels magnetic, the other feels heavy. The moment someone senses that you'll always be there, no matter how they behave, your leverage disappears, and with it, some of the attraction. Real confidence looks like this. You like them, you're interested, but you're not orbiting. Here's something most people never realize. Attraction doesn't grow during constant contact. It grows in a pause, when someone knows they can access you anytime, anywhere, instantly. Anticipation disappears. And anticipation is everything. Your brain runs on dopamine, the chemical of desire, curiosity, and motivation. But dopamine doesn't spike when you have something. It spikes when you're about to get it. That's why waiting for a message feels exciting. That's why the typing bubble creates tension. That's why unpredictable replies feel more intense than instant ones. This is called intermittent reinforcement. It's the same psychological mechanism used in gambling apps. You don't win every time. You don't get rewarded every time. And that uncertainty, it keeps the brain hooked. Now apply that to attraction. If someone always knows, you'll reply immediately. You'll always be free. You'll always pick up. You'll always say yes. There's no uncertainty, no tensión, no curiosity, no build-up. And without build-up, dopamine drops. It becomes routine, and routine rarely feels electric. But when there's space, when interactions aren't constant, when there's time to wonder, something powerful happens. They start thinking about you in the gap. And the gap is where attraction expands. The space between interactions allows imagination to work. They replay conversations. They anticipate the next one. They feel the absence. And absence, when balanced, intensifies desire. This isn't manipulation. It's emotional pacing. Too much exposure flattens excitement. Healthy distance creates rhythm. Think of it like music. If every note played at once, it wouldn't be music. It would be noise. Attraction needs rhythm. Contact. Pause. Contact. Pause. When you're always there, you remove the beat. And without rhythm, emotion fades. The most attractive people understand this instinctively. They engage fully. Then they return to their life. They don't disappear to create anxiety. They create space because they actually have depth. And depth creates mystery. And mystery keeps dopamine alive. So in the next section, we're building this into something powerful. Now we need to address the root. Overavailability usually isn't about kindness. It's about fear. Fear of losing them. Fear of being replaced. Fear of not being enough. And when fear enters attraction, behavior changes. You start replying faster than you normally would. You over-explain. You double-text. You over-invest emotionally before the connection has earned it. This isn't love. It's attachment anxiety. Attachment anxiety makes you treat potential like commitment. It makes you invest deeply before stability exists. It makes you try to secure someone before they've chosen you. And ironically, that urgency pushes people away because emotional dependence feels heavy. When someone senses that your mood depends on their attention, it creates pressure. Pressure kills attraction. Now, compare that to emotional stability. Emotional stability says, I like you, but I'm okay either way. That energy is powerful. It's calm, grounded, centered. And here's the shift most people need to make. Stop seeking external regulation. If someone doesn't reply immediately, pause. Notice the urge to react. Don't act on it. If someone cancels, breathe. Don't scramble to reschedule instantly. Respond with composure. This is emotional regulation, the ability to feel something without letting it control your behavior. Because the truth is, attraction thrives when two regulated adults choose each other. Not when one person is trying to soothe their insecurity through constant access. Now here's practical value. Instead of asking, why haven't they texted me? Ask, what can I focus on right now that builds me? Build self-source validation. Work on your goals. Strengthen your body. Improve your craft. Deepen your friendships. When your sense of worth comes from your own progress, you don't panic over delayed replies. You don't overgive access. You don't overperform for attention. You choose, and choosing feels powerful. The most attractive version of you is not the one who clings. It's the one who is secure enough to enjoy connection without needing it to survive. Attraction grows in stability, not desperation. So in the final section, we'll close this with impact. Here's where everything comes together. Distance, when healthy, increases perceived value, not because people like to be ignored, but because value rises when access is limited. If someone can reach you at any second, you feel common. If someone has to wait sometimes, you feel considered. But let's make this clear. Controlled distance is not manipulation. It's not ghosting. It's not playing hard to get. It's emotional independence. It's having a life that doesn't revolve around one person. The difference is intention. Manipulation says, I'll pull away to make them chase. Emotional independence says, I'm busy building something meaningful. And that difference changes the energy completely. When you build your own routine, your availability naturally decreases. When you prioritize fitness, you're not glued to your phone. When you focus on work or your craft, your time becomes structured. When you invest in your social circle, your world expands beyond one person. And something powerful happens. You stop waiting. You stop checking your phone every 5 minutes. You stop measuring your worth by response time. You become unavailable, not because you're pretending to be important, but because you're becoming important. Improvement creates gravity. When you're progressing, your confidence shifts, your posture shifts, your tone shifts. You don't rush replies. You don't over-explain. You don't chase clarity. You move with calm certainty, and people feel that. Controlled distance creates space. Space creates curiosity. Curiosity creates desire. Desire creates attraction. But the real win? Even if attraction fades, you still win. Because you didn't shrink yourself to be chosen. You expanded. And that's the shift. Stop being overly available. Start being deeply invested in your own growth. Because the most attractive version of you isn't the one who is always there. It's the one who has somewhere meaningful to be. Let's zoom out. Have you noticed something? The people who seem the most attractive, the most respected, the most desired, are rarely the most available. Not because they're arrogant, because they're focused. High-value people don't orbit others. They orbit their mission. They have direction, and direction changes everything. When someone has clear goals, career growth, creative projects, fitness milestones, financial targets, their time becomes structured. Their attention becomes intentional. They don't wake up wondering who will text them. They wake up knowing what they're building. This is ambition psychology. Humans are naturally drawn to momentum. When someone is progressing, improving, striving, it signals competence. It signals discipline. It signals future potential. And future potential is magnetic. Now think about the opposite. If someone's entire schedule revolves around another person, if their mood depends on attention, if they're constantly waiting, it signals stagnation. And stagnation lowers perceived value. Here's the forward reality. In 2026 and beyond, social status isn't built on being constantly online. It's built on focus. The world is more distracted than ever. Notifications, endless scrolling, instant messaging. Availability is common. But focus? Focus is rare. And rare is powerful. The person who doesn't reply instantly because they're training. The person who misses a call because they're building something. The person who says, I'm working on something important, without apology. That energy stands out because it signals. I have direction, and direction creates attraction. Not because people like being ignored, but because they respect purpose. High-value people aren't busy for the sake of appearing important. They're busy because they're invested in becoming better. They understand something most don't. Attention is currency, and they don't spend it everywhere. So here's the shift. Stop trying to be constantly present in someone else's world. Start becoming deeply present in your own. Build goals that require focus. Create routines that demand discipline. Develop skills that consume your attention. When your life has direction, you naturally become less available. And when you become less available because you're evolving, you don't just become more attractive, you become more powerful. This is where everything flips. Most people live in quiet validation mode. They're not building connection. They're seeking approval. Do they like me? Did I say the right thing? Why haven't they replied? Am I losing them? That mindset puts you beneath the interaction. You're trying to be selected. And the moment you're trying to be chosen, you give away power. But attraction changes the second your internal question changes. Instead of, do they want me? You start asking, do I want them? Are they consistent? Do they respect my time? Do they align with my values? Do they add peace or confusion? That shift is subtle, but psychologically it's massive. Because now you're not performing, you're evaluating. An evaluation signals self-worth. When you stop over-investing, stop over-texting, stop over-adjusting, you create space to observe. And observation gives clarity. Clarity creates standards. Standards create boundaries. Boundaries create respect. And respect fuels attraction. Here's the power line that changes everything. When you stop asking to be chosen, you become the one who chooses. Read that again. Chasing is anxious energy. Choosing is grounded energy. Chasing says, I hope I don't lose this. Choosing says, if this aligns, I'll continue. One feels desperate, the other feels decisive. And decisiveness is attractive. The irony? The moment you stop seeking validation, people start seeking yours. Because validation from someone selective feels earned, and earned attention feels valuable. So this is the shift. From reacting to responding. From chasing to assessing. From over-availability to intentional presence. From needing connection to choosing connection. That's when attraction stops feeling confusing and starts feeling natural, because you're no longer trying to secure someone. You're simply deciding if they deserve access to you. And that energy, that's magnetic. Before we close, let's make this practical, because it's easy to listen to this and think, yeah, but that's not me. So here's a quick self-check. If even one of these hits hard, it's a sign something needs to shift. Keycap: when you feel anxious when they don't reply. Be honest. When they take longer than usual, does your chest tighten a little? Do you check your phone repeatedly? Replay your last message. Wonder if you said something wrong? That's not attraction. That's emotional dependency creeping in. If someone's delayed reply can disrupt your peace, your availability isn't the issue. Your emotional anchor is. Secure energy says, they'll reply when they reply. Anxious energy says, something is wrong. And anxious energy always leaks through. Keycap 2: you rearrange your life around them. You cancel plans, shift workouts, move work around, change your schedule instantly if they're free. At first, it feels romantic, but over time, it communicates something subtle. My priorities are flexible, but yours aren't. And when your life constantly adapts to theirs, you unconsciously lower your own value. High-value people don't squeeze their life around someone. They invite someone into it. There's a difference. Keycap 3: you initiate 80% of conversations. Scroll back. Who starts most interactions? Who double texts to keep it alive? Who sends the just checking a message? Who revives dead conversations? If it's mostly you, you're not building attraction. You're sustaining it alone. Balanced interest feels mutual. If you stop initiating and everything dies, that tells you everything you need to know. Here's the key. Being less available isn't about becoming distant. It's about becoming centered. When your mood is stable, your schedule is structured, and your attention is intentional, you stop overgiving access. And that's when attraction shifts. Because the most powerful position in any connection is not chasing, it's choosing. Before you click away, let me ask you something uncomfortable. If being too available lowers your value, what happens when someone uses psychology against you? What if the reason you overtext, over-explain, over-adjust is because someone subtly made you feel small? Because here's the part most people never see. Some people don't just attract, they control. They use silence. They use dominance. They use subtle pressure. And without realizing it, you start shrinking, replying faster, talking softer, trying harder. That's not coincidence. That's psychology. In this video, you learned how over-availability kills attraction. But the deeper layer? Sometimes you're not too available. You're intimidated. And intimidation changes your behavior. So the real question is, what if you could flip that dynamic instantly? What if you knew the exact psychological moves that dissolve intimidation without aggression, without yelling, without pretending to be someone you're not? In the next video, I'm breaking down the 7 dark psychology moves that destroy intimidation. Not manipulation, not toxicity, but powerful psychological shifts that change how people perceive you immediately. Because once you stop chasing, the next step is making sure no one ever makes you feel smaller again. If you've ever felt talked over, overlooked, or subtly dominated, you need to watch what comes next. Click it, and let's change the power dynamic.